What's happening, everybody? This is Jim from JCRC. I've got a little unboxing video for you guys today. Kapow! This is a WLtoys Wild Truck Warrior. 10428A is what I purchased right there, that blue Jeep looking like truck. And I talked my friend Thano into buying that one right there, which is just a regular 10428. They make these in a couple different scales. The ones that start with a 10 or 10th scale, the ones that start with a 12 or 12 scale. They also make a bunch of other different vehicles in different scale sizes as well. 1/18th, 1/24th. Wild Truck Warrior, fast cross country, off-road, mountainous terrain, rocky, desert. 100% assembled by the factory. All the wheels are independent suspension drive system. Okay. All wheel independent suspension apparently. 2.4G high precision remote control receiving system. The pictures for reference only. Refer to the actual product. That's supposed to be actual, I think. Well, let's open her up and take a peek, eh? All right, there she is. And truth be told, guys, I opened this up a couple days ago. I ordered this last week and I received it Wednesday, July 26th. Today is Friday. I took it over to my friend's house, Thano's house, and I did a couple of little drifting videos with it. I haven't really taken it off-road. I climbed over a couple little rocks, and I jumped down some concrete stairs, and I climbed down some concrete stairs, and it handled all that, beautifully. It was a great truck for all that stuff. I ended up using those old Proline plastic beadlocks in the background for drift wheels. So regardless, I'm going to give you guys my unbiased opinion on this truck, on how everything is. Unlike somebody who, just purchased a truck and opened it up and they're super excited about it and they're happy about everything without actually driving it. I've actually driven it, so I can tell you what it's actually like. So here's the battery that it comes with. When I bought the truck, it was just sitting on top like that as well. It's a 2-cell LiPo, 7.4 volt, 25C, 2200 milliamp. Comes with a Dean's style connector on the front. Not necessarily a Dean's connector, but a Dean's style. We'll talk about the radio here. Has a nice rubberized coating on the entire radio. Fits nice in the hand, very comfortable. What looks to be a switch down here is not a switch, that's just a dummy switch. I believe this is a copy off of a more popular radio on the market. This is a 3-channel radio. Has a 3-position switch here for shifting the transmission. Neutral being in the middle, high and low on each end. Digital readout, fold up antenna. You can position it, move the antenna around on it. A little joystick for adjusting all the different stuff on it. Shows the voltage and whatnot, model, name. You can adjust the braking system on it. It has like a high and a middle and a low on it. You can adjust the exponential, the trim, all that good stuff. And I think you can actually assign this radio to a couple other different vehicles, maybe 4 vehicles total. So 3 others, including this one, maybe. Don't quote me on it. Like I said, I got a real good deal on this. Paid like right around $139 on eBay. Prices may vary. I bought this from a place called Hot Brands. So let's talk about the truck here. First off, the plastic is extremely flexible. Which has pros and cons. It's great for going off-road and whatnot. It can take some abuse. You can roll it over and not have to worry about the plastic breaking so much. One problem about that is that the plastic, being so soft, taking screws in and out of the truck, and working on the truck in general, you tend to strip screws out extremely easy. As soon as you get the screw just flush with the whatever you're tightening down, as soon as you go to tighten it just a little bit more, it's just pulling the threads right out like nothing. It's like putting a screw into butter. Very easy to strip out the screws. So let's talk about the first thing I did when I got the truck. First thing I think you want to do with a truck like this is go through the entire truck and make sure that it's mechanically sound and able to go down the trail without any problems. First thing I did was I removed these 4 screws here and pulled off the rear differential inspection cover, and found out that it had absolutely no grease or differential fluid or anything in there. The ring and pinion was completely dry. So I applied some grease to that. I used RC 4-wheel drive red grease. I would have put some waterproof grease in there or some boat grease or whatever, but I just didn't have any on hand, so I just used what I had. In the process of doing that, I took off the axle shafts via 4 screws, and discovered that there was no grease on the axle shafts as well, so I greased those up. And as well, when I took these tires off, you can actually see in there there's a blue aluminum hex in there on each end, and that is because the hexes that came with this truck were all stripped out. Not every one of them, but 3 out of the 4 were completely stripped out, and I'll show you those. Alright, so here are the hexes that come with the truck. Now they're supposed to be all lined up like this. This is the direction that they're supposed to be going. You can see one hex right here is still okay. This one's okay. But this one, somebody just mounted it on there and just jammed the nut down onto it and tightened it down. Same with this one, it's all mangled up. And this one right here, which is completely mangled up as well. So right off the gate, I had to get new hexes. I discovered that at like 6 o'clock at night on Wednesday, and I had to make a mad dash to my local hobby store, where I picked up what was available were these associated clamp-on hexes. I bought an extra set just because my friend Thano bought one of these trucks, so I assume his hexes are probably shot too. And like I said, I had to drill out the center of the hex just a little bit to get it onto the shaft. The shafts are just like a one-off shaft. I tried using the hexes off my trail finder over here, and they wouldn't fit on there either. So regardless, I had to drill out this hole just a pinch to get these to fit on, but you know, they clamp down anyway, so it's not the end of the world. So that took care of that problem with it. Alright, so now we'll move on to the tires here. The tires are a 3-piece bead lock, with the inner wheel part being the center part of the wheel bead lock, and then these outer rings are the actual part that hold it in place. Once again, with the soft plastic, it's super easy to strip out these screws, and I actually stripped one out up here. And so the wheels do have holes in them, air holes in them. I glued those shut. I took the wheels apart. I pulled the foams out of the wheels because they were like rock solid. And there's the actual foam sitting right there. I marked them 1.9 so I wouldn't get them confused with anything. I could have glued these wheels to the rims, but I would like to use these tires on another vehicle because, like I said, they're pretty decent tread and they grip pretty good. They're pretty flexible. So I'm just not going to glue them. I'm just going to get a new set of wheels for them. I did paint the bolt head silver just to throw a little touch of flair on there. But good tires, crappy wheels. I definitely recommend getting new wheels as well as aluminum hexes for it all the way around. Let's talk about the battery here. Alright, so when I got the truck, I anticipated on putting in a spare battery that I had for my trail finder, which is right here. This is an RC King 7.4 volt 2-cell LiPo 7200 milliamp. You can see the size difference there. This is twice as thick. Obviously it's plastic dip, so that adds a little bit to it, but it's basically twice as thick as this. It's obviously wider, definitely longer, and here's a good little side view of it. Try to get lined up there. So if you plan on putting a bigger battery into this truck, it's going to take a little bit of engineering, a little bit of ingenuity to get that job accomplished. So we'll go to the battery here. While I was at the hobby store, I ended up purchasing this battery right here. It's a Drivetrain Onyx lithium polymer battery, 5700 milliamp, 7.4 volt, 25C, 42 WH. Not by preference so much, but by it was basically the only one they had that was going to fit my truck. They had a whole bunch of batteries, but this one was like the closest size that I thought would be, you know, best for trying to squeeze it in there. Alright, so I already removed the screws. There's 4 screws on the body, 2 on each side. And the body comes off relatively easy. Really flexible body, super thin. You can see that somebody didn't line it up too good when they were putting the graphics on. Everything's kind of shifted to the right. The main hood stickers all shifted to the right. The stickers on the grill are all shifted to the right, along with the headlights and turn signals. Everything's shifted. So this baby is probably going to be getting a new paint job. Alright, so here's what you can see of the battery sitting in the truck. The stock battery normally sits back here, and it doesn't go any farther than the roll cage. To put this one in here, I had to trim the plastic gussets on the back of the battery tray just to clear the wires so I didn't have to worry about any chafing. This little cross member on the roll cage was coming up dead center on the side of the battery, so I had to cut that in the middle, and then I heated it up with the torch lighter and bent it upward on both sides. There's another cross brace that ran from this point here all the way across the other side of the frame that I also had to cut out of the way. And then with the Lexan, I made two horizontal cuts, one on this side of the battery, one on the other side of the battery, a vertical cut right up the back of the driver. And then I used like a small lighter and just barely heated up this plastic and bent it up underneath. And then same with the driver, just barely heated it up and bent it over to the left on that side and up underneath a little ways, so it wouldn't grab onto the wires and scrape the wire coating off. Up underneath, you can see how close it is to the transmission. It's a pretty tight fit in here. It's not actually hitting the transmission, but it's pretty close to the transmission. You can get a couple pieces of paper in between there. I did that to try to get some of the weight more towards the front of the truck to make it a little bit more balanced, versus having all that weight just hanging over the back axle, which was, going to be a problem with hill climbing. So while we're in here, let's look at the back of the battery tray. This plastic, like I said, on this truck is very flexible, very flimsy. So you can mount a battery horizontally across the back of here, but that would put a lot of weight right over top of the back axle. And so I mounted mine vertically, running up through these chassis rails. The two shock towers up front there, I actually had to spread those apart just a pinch to get this to fit in there. And since the plastic is so flimsy, I used two of the middle leaf springs off of my trail finder. There are two leaf springs that I don't use, so I just used two of them. They're opposing each other, and then I used two screws and lock nuts to bolt the whole mess together. And that's basically clamping, putting a clamp down on the top and the bottom half of the tray at the same time. It actually, you can see the bottom half of that spring where it runs up into the up past the main part of the chassis there. So that gave me a little bit more comfort, I guess, for going out on the trail. A little bit more confidence in that the battery's not going to fall out of the back of my truck or break off from the back of the truck. So slight modification there to get a bigger battery into it. And let's go to the front differential. Alright, front differential. For the magic of video, I just removed this front bumper piece, which is screwed underneath the bottom here with two screws, and then it's attached to the side with two screws to the top of the roll cage here. So I just took that off. For the front differential, it has, let's talk about the front end. It has cantilever front suspension, like off of a Revo, almost the same design. I removed these two connecting rods for the front suspension. Remove this little cover here. It's just a plastic cover, two screws to remove that, and this cover just acts like a keeper to hold the A-arms in place, or the pins for the A-arms in place. And you take that off, and there's actually an aluminum bracket in there for holding the A-arms in check. Remove that, and then there's four more screws to take out. One right up by my thumb. Sorry about the camera. Another one down below. Another one up here, another one down below it. You have great access once that cover is off. And you can take the front cover off of the differential and then pull the whole differential assembly right out of that casing without having to worry about taking off the back half of the differential cover. Alright, so the front differential is an open differential right from the factory. The rear differential and rear axle has a locker in there, so it's locked up. When I pulled out the front differential, when I was at the hobby store, I attempted to buy a locker for this front axle. I was going to try to get one from a Vatera Twin Hammers. I believe Twin Hammers, from what I've heard and what I've read and seen on videos, are pretty close to the same thing as far as drivetrain. So I pulled this front differential out. The whole differential is self-contained in a cup with both of these dog bones connected on either end. You take out four screws on the driver's side dog bone, and that removes the dog bone and the bevel gear from inside of the cup, where all the rest of the smaller gears are contained, and the bevel gear for the passenger side. There was lube in the front differential, so that was kind of good. There's like a trans fluid of some sort in there. I cleaned all that trans fluid out, took the gears out of it, and I ended up using some JB Weld plastic weld or water weld to put in that front differential, which is this stuff right here. Comes in a little tube. It's very strong. I bought this a couple years ago to fix a water leak in the middle of winter for a house on my pipe, or a pipe in my house. You can use it on all kinds of stuff: fuel tanks, batteries, oil pans, blah blah blah. You can drill it, file it, sand it, tap it, paint it. Works on a lot of stuff. Works, things can be wet and you can put this on there and it'll seal up. So great stuff. So nevertheless, high tensile strength. That's what I had on hand. Some people use silly putty, some people use Play-Doh. Ultimately, you could throw a handful of nuts and bolts and washers in there and bolt it back up together and do the same thing. I basically just took the differential apart, separated everything, cleaned everything off, rolled up 2 little balls of that stuff, put it on either side of the bevel gears, installed 2 bevel gears, put 2 more balls in there, swished it around, installed 2 more bevel gears, and then put the other top half of the differential and dog bone back in there and screwed it all down so it's like completely filled inside that differential assembly with this JB Weld water weld epoxy. So now it's full-time 4-wheel drive, front and rear. No more open differential on it. It's all locked up front and back. Which I'm sure, depending on your driving style, if you're ripping around on asphalt, that's going to definitely do some drivetrain damage. So be careful on high traction areas. All right, another good reason to go through the truck when you first get it. We'll take a look down here. That right there is the speed control / receiver tied into one. It's like a 5-wire system for the servos. There is a couple of other little ports on the back here, 2-wire ports. I believe that red one might be a power port where you could probably run some lights off it if you wanted to. There is an on-off switch down here. It is in the on position, just because there's a body on there and there's no access to it, so the factory leaves it in the on position, relying on you to unplug and plug in your battery to open and close the circuit. Another view there of the battery and how close it is to the transmission in there. When I first got this truck, the shifting servo wasn't properly positioned. I had to do to just make a little adjustment on the controller to actually get that right. When you shifted into high gear, it was wanting to go past high gear. The servo was just straining. It was making all kinds of noise. When you put it into neutral, it wasn't quite in neutral. It was like in between high and neutral. When you shifted to low, it wasn't quite in low. It was like in between neutral and low. So I just dialed back my controller from like 00 to like -5 on the servo here for shifting the transmission, and that cleared it all up. So now neutral is neutral and low is low and high is high, and there's no noises coming from the servo. So yeah, once again, make sure you go through your stuff and make sure that the truck is trail ready and trail mechanically sound, I guess, for going down the trail before you get to it. And here's a little view from underside the driver. I don't know if you can see it or not, but right up here is a piece of plastic from the roll cage that I had to heat up with the lighter and bend out of the way as well for getting that, to make that battery fit in there. And I just bent it up and put it underneath the driver here, underneath this Lexan, to add like support for the side of the Lexan on the driver, between the driver and the battery. Drive shafts. The truck has a plastic drive shaft on the back with a CV style joint on the end of it there. The internal drive shaft in the middle is a metal drive shaft going from the transmission to from the main transmission to the front differential. So this drive shaft right here looks like the only real weak point so far on the drivetrain. And then I figured, I'd just make note that these little plastic tabs here, I plan on cutting these right off, right back here. I just left them sitting in here like this, so when I did this video, you guys, or everybody that's watching, would be able to see, where exactly that plastic was in the beginning, and the fact that you have to cut it up or cut it out of the way to make it fit. And then suspension. The suspension travel on it is outstanding. Once again, for the price, for right around $139. Like I said, prices vary. The suspension is great. Like my trail finder, for instance, I have extensive work into that to get to have that truck get that kind of flex out of it and still have the remaining tires sitting on the ground. This one it's a little bit easier, and it still actually has more flex to go here on the suspension. You can move the shock up a little bit farther before it's totally bottomed out there. So not too bad for front travel. This glass is 5.5 inches tall, and then it has the same travel on the back as well. Another 5.5 inches of articulation on the back half of it. Not too shabby, once again, for the price. And there's a stack of 4 stock Trailfinder 2 tires sitting next to that glass for a visual reference on what the 5.5 inches looks like. And then bam, to the magic of video, she's all put back together again. Alright, there for a visual reference is the WLtoys 10428A next to my RC 4-wheel drive Trailfinder 2. RC 4-wheel drive is sitting on 2.2 RC 4-wheel drive mudslingers. The WLtoys is sitting on no name brand 1.9, some kind of rock crawler tread tire there. So there's a little height reference as far as size. Now here we are looking at the wheelbase. Basically the same wheelbase. You could probably use that Trailfinder body on this WLtoys. Maybe just use the cab and not the bed. Incorporate the back half of the roll cage or whatever into it. So there's a visual reference on the size. Alright, so that's about it, everybody. That's my unboxing and unbiased opinion on this WLtoys 10428A. And I hope you enjoyed the video. Click like and subscribe if you like what you've seen. Once again, we'll just recap that it's a great truck for the value. Comes with a lot of stuff, you know, with the radio and the charger and the battery and everything. All installed, 3-channel radio, somewhat water resistant apparently. I don't know how much I would trust that without really going through it and plastic dipping some stuff or spraying some stuff down. The wheels, once again, you're going to need new wheels most likely, unless you don't mess with them. If you just leave the screws intact, you'll probably be okay, but if you take the foams out and then go to reinstall everything, you know, I almost guarantee you that you're going to strip out some of these screws. These hubs, just for another quick reference, you can take out these screws here and remove the hub off the back of the wheel, and that will work with an RC 4-wheel drive hub. So you could put a metal hub onto this plastic wheel if you wanted to. I put one over top of it, and they have the exact same bolt pattern. So if you wanted to change the plastic hubs off of here to metal hubs and still continue to use these wheels, you can. You know, you could glue these tires to these wheels and bolt those hubs up to it, and they would be a lot stronger. But you know, still they're pretty light, so you're probably going to want some heavier wheels just for going off-road and crawling. Actual weight on the vehicle is pretty light. It's extremely light. It weighs nothing in comparison to that Trailfinder. That thing is 11.4 pounds. Very heavy truck. The body weighs at least 2 pounds on this truck, and so it has a lot of. It's pretty top heavy as well. So this thing is a pretty trail capable vehicle for what it is. So once again, everybody, thanks for watching. This is Jim from JCRC. You all have a great night. Click like and subscribe. Share with your friends. Thanks again.